Hello and welcome to Talking About Scottish Property, and today we're talking to Charlie Innes about Scottish Property. Charlie is the Business Development Manager, Head of Business Development for Glenham Property. He's an investor himself, he's a portfolio landlord himself, and he guides other property investors to make the best decisions. And he's a social media icon as well. I think I've said that before. This is part 2 of a part 3 interview with Charlie, and in this part what we want to do is talk about positivity in Scottish buy-to-let. And well, Charlie, why do we want to talk about positivity in Scottish buy-to-let? We've just had a quick chat off here, in fairness, about this. So but why would you like tell us again why you think we should be more positive?
I think there's been an awful lot of negativity around the private rented sector, residential property investment in general. And there is no doubt about it. The sector's taken a bit of a hammering over the course of the last 3 years, really, pre-COVID. However, I remain an optimist. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And I still firmly believe there is opportunity to invest in the private rented sector in Scotland. The market is operating well. It is remaining resilient in the face of all the hurdles that we're seeing thrown at us, whether that be economic, whether that be legislative, all these obstacles that are being chucked at us. I'm not surprised some landlords are feeling a little bit shaken by it all. But there is still opportunity in the market. The demand from tenants has never been stronger. Competition amongst tenants to find properties is the highest it's ever been. Time to let figures in Scotland are the lowest they've ever been. The availability of stock in the market is the lowest it's ever been historically. Lengths of tenancies are the longest they've ever been. So void periods are lower than they've ever been. So I absolutely get that it's a little bit more difficult potentially with things like interest rates, but there is still a place to invest, and there is still a return to be made for people providing good quality homes for tenants that a landlord can be proud of and a tenant can be proud of.
Yeah, well said, Charlie, well said.
Yep.
And I think looking at the sort of city lets, the last sort of quarterly report had the average time to let end was 15 days. So that is extremely low, because you always, it's impossible to have a turnaround with shorter, because you need to check the flat, you need to make sure it's clean before the new tenants move in. So that's all taken into consideration. And the average one bed flat, according to Citylex, was sitting at £908 per month. So quite an increase. So you can see why why it's still an attractive investment for a lot of people.
I think the other thing that we should potentially draw some attention to here as well is these sensationalist headline figures that are being made about rental inflation. These are figures based on new tenancies. They are not based on existing tenancies and the overall rent. So we need to confront that and state that actually 4 out of 5 tenants, I believe, now stay in their properties. And these tenants are not having rents raised by landlords on the whole. Some will, but not, and also not in direct reflection to the market. So the headline figures that we talk about that are being used as, shall we say, ammunition to drive to landlords say rents are too high, are based on new tenancies. Okay, there is an issue with that and around affordability for new tenants entering the market. But I think in general, we need to differentiate that and make sure people understand that you need to look at the rents for new tenancies and existing tenancies. And actually, if you look at the figures from people like Citylets, that is new tenancies. Look at the ONS figures.
Yeah.
The IPHRP, which is a housing index for all tenancies. That's the number that people should be looking at.
Yeah.
So the average rent being paid is not necessarily £908. That's the average rent of a property advertised and let at that time.
Correct.
Yeah. There's a lack of data around, isn't there? That's the main issue, and I think the Scottish Government understand that around the PRS in Scotland. There's a lack of data to get that information, and I think they're keen to understand the current rents across the board. Chris and I often speak to landlords who are thinking of selling their tenanted properties, and the tenants have been in there for 3 or 4 years, and the rents are nowhere near the rents that are advertised on City Lets. So that is worth pointing out, Charlie, definitely.
Well, again,
I think you're absolutely right, and I think again, I think this view that landlords, and we're going off topic here to a degree, but landlords are being knocked to lots, and they're being portrayed as these sort of parasitic individuals who take advantage of their tenants. That is so far from the reality of actually what happens in most cases that it's grossly unfair. And I still firmly believe that there are really good opportunities for landlords to invest if they do it wisely, if they take proper advice, or they do their numbers properly, and they're well, they kick the tires and they do the due diligence and they do the analysis to buy an asset that stacks up. There is still opportunity there, and we provide, on the whole, good quality homes for tenants to live in. And we should be proud of that fact as well. I think that's forgotten.
On that, Charlie, and to kind of wrap things up a little bit, the providing of the good quality accommodation, I think the private rented sector will probably start to see themselves over a number of years still to come, but more like social housing than ever before, because of the legislation that's been brought in, the length of tenancies and the way that it's governed. And that's not the worst thing in the world, for that to be the case. And I think that it's possibly a good idea to embrace that idea sooner rather than later, and then maybe project that out to the general public, to change the story from landlords being evil, parasitic, fat cats, that kind of thing, to people providing housing, and from more of a social aspect, because effectively with the way the leases are and the controls are, it is a bit more like social housing than it ever has been before in the Scottish private rented sector. So that's my piece. Again, we could talk about this for hours. The opening question was, why should we remain positive about buy-to-let investment? And it's really, what I'm hearing is because it's needed. Landlords are needed. Scottish private rented sector is needed. Tenants need to rent properties, and it still works financially as well. So there we are. Thank you again, Charlie, for answering that question. That was part 2 of a part 3 series of questions. Watch out for the next one. We'll see you later, Charlie. Thanks a lot for listening, watching, all the rest. Bye now.